Welcome to the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast with TJ and Sonny.
Hello and welcome to the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast. My name is TJ McConaughey. We are the podcast that delves into the depths of fringe youth work and the people who do fringe youth work, and some stories about fringe youth, and maybe some helpful tips on how to deal with students who come from rough places. I am joined, as always, by my best friend, co-host, and Illuminati confirmed believer, Sonny Saltalamacchia.
Hello, TJ.
How's it going, man?
I'm going pretty good. Yourself?
I'm doing good. I mean, I kind of came into this real high energy, and then you kind of just went, blah, 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 blah. So that was cool, I guess. But we can go.
I'm in that Elijah complex mode where he just did a big all day event.
Yeah,
I've literally been home for like 15 minutes, and then I had to see your face. So
man, hey,
nobody could deal with that real good.
That's not a bad thing. That's a really good.
Your face
thing.
Is freshly shaven, so that's cool.
Yeah, that is true. If you guys are watching the live version of this, my face is.
You look like you're 12 and just discovered you have facial hair.
I know, but when I was 12, I had a lot of acne, so this is like a better version of
facial hair is a good thing.
Yeah, no, dude, it's not a bad deal.
That's why I have a beard.
Sonny, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
What do we talk about? We talk about question of the week, and then we do Tales from the Fringe, where we talk about stories from our experience working with youths, and then Pick or Flick, where each of us pick a topic, and each of us picks it or flicks it. And I think that's, and then just a bunch of nonsense in between. Because, we're just a couple of two white guys with mics, and we just started a podcast.
Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. We are just basic bros is what we are. Putting our voices out there for other people.
But we don't drink White Claw.
No.
You probably know what that is, do you?
I don't know what that is. Is it like Zima?
That's good.
Remember Zima?
It's worse. It's worse than Zima. Worse than Zima.
That's how dated. That's how long ago in the past my Fringe episodes were.
Did you ever see that one show? I don't remember. I think it was like some drinking show in Germany or something like that. What the heck show was that called? But they were making fun of the Americans, like, and you drink your Zimas and your little Smirnoff Ices and stuff like that. But White Claw is definitely, it's worse.
It's worse?
Oh yeah,
is it hard liquor or is it like a soft?
No,
soft
it's like a fruity alcoholic beverage. Oh, started out for women, and then dudes are now drinking it. And,
yeah, that's the way.
If you go on YouTube, type in that Trevor Lawrence guy, he just has these pretty hilarious skits about
the White Claw
and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It sounds like something I'd be into.
What's his name?
It sounds like White Claw would be the thing I would be into. Because that's
you would probably drink it. You would be a White Claw drinker.
My
brother-in-law drinks it.
Hey, you know what?
He's like a stud.
I like fruity stuff. That's kind of who I am. All right, I like fruity drinks.
Trevor Wallace. Just go on YouTube, type in Trevor Wallace White Claw, and you'll get the hang of it.
Okay, all right, I'll do that later.
Hey, bro, do you claw?
Is that how you say it? Do you claw?
Hey, bro, do you claw?
All right. Well, I'm glad that we got the alcohol innuendos in, but I'm done with all this chit chat. Let's get to the show.
Join the conversation on Facebook and Instagram. And when you subscribe to this podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating. We desperately need your approval.
Question of the week. The question I have for you today is this, Sonny. What is a good weakness for youth workers to have? What is a good weakness? So the rest of the world, so the way I'm interpreting this is the rest of the world would look at this and say, that's not cool. That's not awesome. But for a youth worker and the way that youth workers do their business, it actually ends up being a positive. So what do you think that is, Sonny?
Well, I work too hard. I care too much. And what's the third one from Michael Scott?
Work too hard. I care too. I don't know, man.
Much. Yeah, I get too invested in my job. Yeah.
Yeah.
A good weakness
I'm a
for
workaholic.
a youth worker or youth leader worker, or what's your clarification here?
A youth worker, man. Yeah. Any what you do and what I do.
I think you have to be really weak at time management. Meaning, you want to give all of your time to the kids all of the time. And you need somebody older and wiser to say, you can't do that. You'll burn yourself out. And plus, it's not healthy. And put these parameters around that. Because I think that's hard to teach. Like, it's hard to teach, hey, if you're going to Walmart, pick up the kid. That's a win-win. Hey, if you're going out to go drive for a couple hours to go do something and come right back, take a kid with you. Like, it's hard to kind of teach that mentality. And so if you come into it with that mentality, I think it's easier.
Yeah.
Today on the event, a couple things happened that people had to jump right into, and they did it without even thinking about it. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a good weakness to have.
Why is it important to snag a kid and take them with you on medial tasks?
Because I think if you're thinking of what Jesus did, he lived life with people. And so when you do those remedial tasks, you're just living life with each other. You know, they see you in your context, you see them in their context. You always say a relationship demands a context. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, just those silly Taco Bell trips or Walmart trips or going to the hardware store trips or whatever, you know, take a kid with you, and all of a sudden those conversations can be really gold. And some of the best conversations have happened not inside my office when we were prepared to have an important conversation. They came when neither of us really, well, I guess the youth worker is a little more prepared than the kid, but it just comes when the defenses are down, the focus is elsewhere, and people are just more trusting in that environment, I think.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense to me. It is a philosophy I've worked with for a while. Mine's a little bit different. I think messy, disorganized, guys who don't have all their stuff together, as far as like they can't find their stuff every morning when they get their stuff together, make really good youth workers. I think that those guys, and I know that because I am one of those people. I have to surround myself with people who aren't those people, who aren't like me, because they help me keep my stuff together. But I think that when you're dealing with teenagers, especially teenagers on the fringe, but any teenager really, it's a messy situation. And people who are okay with mess or not threatened by things that don't always fit in the right places, or, you know, the chaos of unorganized living, those people are usually pretty comfortable around teenagers. And so it's the dilemma, right? Like, in order to be a good youth worker, you got to have these kind of natural things, like you just talked about, the high end relational. I'm gonna go grab this kid, pick him up before I go to Walmart, because hey, I don't want to do this alone, and it'd be better because I get the ministry. If that doesn't come natural, you just don't do it, right? Mm-hmm. And the other one I'm saying here is that, but the thing I'm saying is, the thing that can make you really good at relating to teenagers often is the thing that makes a lot of youth workers not really good at relating to their bosses and relating to parents. And that's a hard thing to do. So I think that if you're in that situation, if you're like me, you need to surround yourself with people who are good at that. Make your directors or your second in commands, or the people who are closest to you, they need to be people who got your back and, in a metaphorical way, are coming behind you and cleaning up some things. And I think that's a really good balance to have, and you can go far with that balance, especially in youth work.
Now, can you be too messy?
Yes.
Yeah. So how? How?
I mean, if you're a hoarder, you don't want to be bringing that baggage into things, like kids like, hey, we came by to pray at your house yesterday, but we got collapsed on by a big heaping pile of trash that you're holding on to because you have emotional attachments to it. Yeah, that's unhealthy, right? Like, so I'm not talking about psychologically bad messiness. I'm talking about disorganization, the disorganized minds. And so, yeah, I think there's probably a line, and I would draw it, way beyond where I'm at, of course. But I don't know, man. I think that, yeah. If you're gonna pick a kid up to take him to the Walmart with you, you better have a passenger seat ready for him, and better not be caked with Taco Bell wrappers.
Oh, let me just throw this away real quick. Throw this on the side real quick. Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't
Michael
throw
Scott's
away that
ready
Taco Bell cup when I got 5 weeks ago.
When Michael Scott's going to take the purse model lady home with him or to the drink afterwards, and he has Ryan come clean out his car, and he has all the fillet of fishes in there. Remember the wrappers and everything?
The fillet of fish. That's right. That's right. Or it's like Meredith, man. You can't be Meredith. Can't be that messy.
Yeah.
But there's some other things going on with Meredith. That's for dang sure.
Lots of things.
Yeah. Tales from the Fringe. I
can't look at you, bro. You look like you're like 21.
So if you're not familiar with this, I accidentally shaved my beard off. I did. That happened.
How do you actually? Did you have the razor on 0 instead of 2?
Yeah. So I normally do a 3. That's where I kind of roll at. Sometimes I do a 2.5. You know how the razor has its own little kind of built-in thing. So I put the 2 on there and then give it a couple clicks. But I'm about 2.5, 3 guy. I'm working right now on the 1 Minute Message season 2, and so I was cutting the first video for that this week. And
cut your beard.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly right. So I was like, oh no, I got to shave for this thing. I don't want to be like neckbeard in the first 1 Minute Message. And so I came home real quick, and I was like, okay, I got to shave real quick. And when I didn't put the right guard on there, and I put a 1 on there, and then I did it right in the middle, so I had to do the rest of it that way. And I thought,
yeah.
So I have a little bit of shadow. The good news is, when your beard sits around 2.5, it doesn't take that long to grow it out. So it's not like I lost a year-long, Alabama boy's beard here, So
you'll be back to their normal.
You'll get back there, but yes, I do look like a child. So thank you for demasculating me before we get into Tales from the Fringe.
Does your wife like it?
See that segue? You know what? It hasn't helped me out or not helped me out in that yet, but it's rather new. So I don't know. Maybe I should make a move tonight. I don't know. Is that all right to put on this podcast? Talk about moves we're making with our wives. Okay.
I would love just to go, what is your move? But I don't want to go that far down the rabbit hole.
Well, what I do is I shave my beard really, really, really close. And then I kind of whip around without a whole lot of
Hey, you want to eat some popcorn with me?
I hear McDonald's got a filet of fish special.
Kids are sleeping. We got about a good 30 seconds to go to McDonald's.
No, that's that. You know what that is? That's to check, make sure Britt's listening to this. If she's still amongst the randos. It is Tales from the Fringe time. Stop trying to distract me from the Tales from the Fringe. This is probably the mellowest podcast we've done. We're not even close to being on our schedule. Tales from the Fringe, you guys know what that is. It's our good old-fashioned storytelling time, a time when Sonny and I both look back at our work with fringe people, fringe kids, and sometimes even when we were fringe back in the day. And these stories come from there. Sonny, let me hear your tale from the Fringe this week.
Yeah, this one actually happened today. So I took a bunch of kids down to the Oregon State football game. This is the third year that we've done an event at the Oregon State game. Right now we're in our big run where we do an event once a month. So we do like a big event once a month where we'll go swimming, go to the coast, go to a football game. October we go to the haunted house. November, we do a big Thanksgiving dinner. Christmas, we do a big white elephant gift exchange. January, we go, what's that? Polar bear plunge. And so we have these monthly events that we do. And for the most part, you start getting a crew together that comes with them. And then even when they graduate our program, they still come back. So the culture is always pretty good. But today, I took around 12 kids down to the Oregon State game, and I had four staff come with us. And it was a good mix. Morning starts out great. Do a breakfast out of the office, have a little morning powwow, head down, get a bunch of pizza, and then we go to the Beavers, like the fan store, right? So I think at most college campuses, you have like the fan store where, we always go there and, we have our routines established and stuff. So we're in the store, and the store is packed. I mean, the store is always packed, and I think the students haven't quite came back to school yet, and it's even still packed. And so, a bunch of kids are looking at glasses and hats and all that kind of stuff, and we're just kind of goofing off in the store. And then I say, all right, I'm going to go outside. So then I go outside, and I'm sitting there, and a couple of other leaders come out, and then some of the kids start coming out, and eventually all the kids come out. And then we're sitting there and getting ready to go to the practice field to go run around and play football and stuff before the game started. And all of a sudden, this lady comes up and speaks to one of the kids and says, "Excuse me, sir, can you come back in the store with me?" And I'm like looking over like, what? And then he looks at her and says, "What?" And she goes, "We saw you take those sunglasses." And I was just like, oh, crap. And then,
no.
So then he goes, "Okay." And then he goes walking back in, and I'm just like, I mean, this is in the middle of like the game starts in an hour and 15 minutes. Dang. And all of a sudden this kid, he's a kid, he's 17, and he's like, I'm in charge. So I just follow him back in. And the cool, like there's good and bad to this story. So I follow him back in, and we end up having to go up the stairs, and like, it's like a official thing, like he got caught stealing. And we have to go upstairs in this little tiny room, and it's like the stealing room, whatever, or the shoplifting, holding room. And it's just a blank room with a desk, and that's it. So we're sitting in there, and the guys come in, the security people, and they say, "We saw you steal glasses. Do you still have them?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then they go, "Can you bring them out?" And he pulls them out of his coat, and he stole 2 pairs of glasses, for $25. And they end up, holding us there for probably 20 or 30 minutes and talking to him and getting all his information, and then telling him he's, banned from the store for 30 days and has to pay the cost of the glasses and a $100 fine. And on top of that, they had to call the cops. So then the cops come down, and it was probably an hour and a half process, but I'm just going to, paraphrase it. They call the cop down, and the cop writes him a ticket for a theft 3 charge, which is a, criminal charge, and he has to go to court now. He just got off probation. This is going to put him back on probation. And yeah, so then the cop's there, and then, the kid doesn't want to give the cop the mom's number, and I'm like, "I have your mom's number. We're going to call her." And he's like, "No, you can't call her. She's not going to answer." I'm like, "We're calling your mother." So I call her, and of course she answers the phone, and then I say, "Hey, so-and-so, somebody wants to speak to you." I just give the phone to the cop. Yeah, it was weird, man. Weird moment. Damn. And then, so then he talks to her, and he's like, "Do you want me to release him to Sonny, or do you want to come down?" And she's like, "You can release to Sonny, and I'll work it out." So then, long story short, cop talked to him for probably another 10, 15 minutes, got my information, and then escorted us out of the store. And then me and him had to walk all the way back to where the bus was, where we parked a little short bus that we drove down there, and waited for his mom for about 45 minutes. Mom picked him up, and then I walked into the game probably about midway through the second quarter. Now, here's the cool part. From the moment that I had to walk back in the store, I was consumed with this situation, and I wasn't going to let him be there alone. Of course I was going to go. But I didn't say one word to my 3 coworkers who were with me. And Casey, who you've met at camp before, this is her 3rd time going to the Beavers games, and she's an all-star. And then Jorge's new to us. He's been there for about 6-7 months. He knows the culture. And then Bethany's actually brand new. This is I think her 3rd event she's done with us. I didn't say one word. Casey saw kind of that I was going to be tied up, took everybody to the practice field. Everybody had a great time. She said the culture was great, and she made sure to keep the culture up. And then took everybody to the game, got them to their seats, and by the time I got there, they were all just chilling, and it was cool. And they knew something had happened. A couple of them were like, "Where's Sonny? Where's Sonny?" And the staff didn't be like, "Oh, somebody got caught stealing," or this, that, and the other. She just said, "Oh, he's dealing with something," and that was it, man. And so I was like, on one hand, I was so freaking annoyed at this kid, and just I mean, I've worked them for a while, and you know, I feel for them, but you know, I was so mad. But anyway, I was so proud of my staff that like they just took it. You know, they didn't bat an eye. They knew the drill. They weren't like paralyzed because I wasn't there, or they weren't like, you know, having to wait for me to get there and stuff. They just ran with it and stuff. So it was pretty cool. But it was just kind of one of those things, like, you know, when you deal with fringe kids, this happens. And we've done a lot of events over the years, and nothing's ever happened like this, you know, praise God. And I called my big boss, the CEO of the company, right after his parents picked him up and told him that. And he goes, you know, I'm surprised this doesn't happen more often. He goes, I totally believe in what you're doing. Don't let it discourage you. Go have fun at the game.
Oh, that's good.
So it was cool. So, you know, but sucky deal, man. Sucky deal.
That is a sucky deal, dude. That is so sucky. Yeah. There's not much I can say to that. I mean, that's a long day, homie.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and like, you know, the whole day we get up at 8 o'clock and we get back. So then check this out. So just weird stuff happens, right? So then at the end of the day, this kid is trying to go home. He can't get home. It's like 5 minutes past the time he's supposed to be home, and he starts flipping out because his grandpa won't be able to take him to this kid's house. So then as we start to get ready to go home, he's like grabbing this milk jug and like throwing it on the ground and screaming in the middle of downtown Salem. I'm just like, what the heck? And then we drive him to his house, and he gets off the bus. He's like, hey, thanks, man. Had a great day. See you later. Bye. And then I'm like, what the crap? And then we go drop off the last kid with us, whose sister had a baptism today. So their family's having this big party. And he's like, what, you guys want some food? And we're like, and they're all, you know, they're Hispanic. I was like, yeah, sure. See if you can get us a plate. He goes, they're probably going to invite you in. I was like, well, we don't want to intrude. He goes, no, it's cool. I was like, we don't want to intrude. You know, and it was a long day. So we pull up to his house. There's cars up and down the block. We can't even park the stupid bus. And he goes into his house, and he comes walking out with his mom, who I've met his mom before. And, you know, she speaks broken English. So she comes up, and she just goes, come in, Sonny, come in. And I was like, all right. So we go walking in this house. It's freaking packed full of people. I'm the only white dude there. And everybody's just like, hello, you know, they're all just, you know, saying hello, and, you know, they're all offering us beer. And we're like, we can't drink beer. I don't want any beer, you know, but everybody's offering us beer. Because my other coworker, he was a Spanish guy, and so he kept laughing. He goes, everybody wants us to drink beer. I was like, we can't drink any beer. So they give us this huge plate full of food, and we just chow down. And then they're like serving us, like waiting on us, you know, just bringing us everything we needed. And then we just dipped. We just ate and left. But it was like super cool, man. They're all like waving us and almost like cheering for us as we left. It was crazy. So just like this crazy day of just like these up and down moments, you know. Dang. It's nutty, man. It's
that's fringe youth work right there, man. I mean, goodness.
One day, you know.
Yeah, I could see why doing the podcast at the end of the day didn't seem like a great thing. Man, what a crazy day you had. Holy cow,
fun
man.
Stuff.
Lots of work, man. But there is this. Whenever I have a bad day, I sort of think about this thing. This is my tale from the fringe, but this is just a little anecdotal thing. I'm giving it to you, Sonny, so you can take it. It's free. When I was working my way through Bible college and then seminary, I would go home in the summers and I'd work construction jobs. And the year was like the 2008 crash. Remember that year? And I had a job lined up, but the contractor who was going to hire me couldn't hire me. And I ended up having to work like 5 jobs just to get like a full-time job that summer. I worked like an Asian food delivery guy in the night, and I worked as a tile delivery person, and then I framed.
I would love to have watched you deliver Asian food.
I know. It was awesome. I have some great stories from that. I'm not gonna talk about those now. But also the main thing I did was I laid tile. And I did like Pergo and some other stuff, flooring installer. And we had to wear these big knee pads because when you're on your knees all day, it's absolute necessity. And so they're just tight little things that sit on your knees all day. But I remember during the breaks, and then when you get off work, the coolest and the most amazing feeling you ever got was taking those knee pads off at the end of the day, and just your blood rushing there. And I don't know what it is, Sonny. It's so amazing. It's like taking your shoes off at the end of the day, but even better than that, right? And I used to just dream all day about taking off my knee pads. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be on break in 10 minutes. I got to take off the knee pads. I get to have that feeling of taking off the knee pad. That was the best part of that job. There was no other good part of that job. All of it sucked. It was dirty. It wasn't fun. The people I worked with were kind of rough around the edges, and I had nothing in common with them. And it was just, it wasn't awesome. And every time I have a bad day as a youth worker, I remember those knee pads. And I think, I can handle this. This isn't so hard.
Not even close.
And that's, I don't know why I do. I always think of those stinking knee pads, and I don't know what it is. Anyway, here's my go ahead.
Well, just real quick, an anecdote to your anecdote is I remember, I think last week we talked about our dreams of today, or our complaints of today are often the dreams of yesterday.
Yeah.
I remember sitting on the side of a hill, digging this trench in the middle of pouring down rain in Portland, up in the Cedar Hills area, and it's the side of this hill. I kept falling down. I'm digging this trench. I remember finally just sitting there going, God, is this what I'm supposed to be doing with my life? I just was so frustrated. And I thought about that today. I thought about, as I'm up there talking to this cop with this kid who I have actually worked with for a long time, worked with him through his PTSD, worked with him through a lot of stuff with his dad. And I'm in this moment with him. And I thought about that moment because I was so mad, and I don't know what happened. It just got brought to my memory. And I was just like, this is the only place I want to be. I mean, where else would you want to be? Like at least I was there with him. And then I got to talk to him for an hour afterwards about the situation, And so maybe fruit will come of it, sometime or another.
Yeah, that's that famous Chris Rock, a career versus a job. In a career, you don't ever feel like you have enough time to get everything done. You go home like, man, I didn't get everything done I wanted to get done today.
Yeah.
And in a job, it's like you have more than time. You're always looking at the clock. You can't wait for it to be over, and it feels like it just lasts forever. Now, I know that I'm in my career. I know I'm in my job, and it's not a job to me. It's my passion. Cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that and being a passionate youth worker. And I'm sorry that happened. So this one is you can help me fill in on the details on this one because I can't remember all of them, but you were there for this, Sonny. So I want to talk about Colin Barrow today. And Colin Barrow is not a fringe kid, not even close. Like he's about as straight and narrow as a kid could be. The best way I could describe him now, he listened to this, he's probably like, no, dude, I'm totally French, but he's sitting there thinking like that right now. But the best way I could describe him is Zac Efron on High School Musical. That's who Colin Barrow was. He's a good basketball player, got a great smile, great personality. A lot of people like this kid. And he starts coming to youth. And he's just, he's an awesome joy to be around. And we're on this mission trip. We're on the mission trip together. Now, there's a couple things. I'm telling all this to set up a different story about later on in life. And we're on this mission trip, and Colin is kind of bought into our program a little bit. I mean, he's the popular, he's the popular sports kid that's all of a sudden like really loving youth group, which, is kind of a dream because he usually brings all of his friends, and he did. And I remember he was trying to talk to a certain girl the whole trip. And Snapchat was just kind of like a new thing back then. It was like the big thing, the new thing at that point. And Colin had gotten in a little bit of trouble. I don't think it was big trouble, but he got in the basic punishment for good kids. He's gotten his phone taken away, right? And so all he had was that little iPod Touch. And I think you were egging him on, or I was egging him on, saying, hey, get the digits, get the whatever. And he looks at the girl. I think we're like two different cars at this point going down the highway, right?
We were in your truck, and then Kaya was in the other car.
So it's Kaya.
We pulled up next to him with the red light.
Yeah. And he rolls down the window and he goes, hey, let me get your snap, to Kaya, who's also a really cool girl. Shout out to Kaya.
Yeah, super cool.
And Kaya looks at him blank-faced and says, you don't even have a phone.
No, she looked at him like she looked at him like, what are you, stupid? You don't even have a
just totally, just the biggest
like dumbfounded.
rejection,
Dumbfounded
man.
even asked the question.
Dude, he was going strong on that dunk, and he got just rejected so hardcore. And props to Kaya for, not letting any of that business happen on the mission trip. But fast forward to a little bit later date on that mission trip is that dude had the worst job on that mission trip. We ended up going to these apartments and helping these people who kind of fell through the cracks a little bit, and everyone had to go to kind of a different apartment, and we went 2 by 2 to all these things to help out these older folks or disabled folks or handicapped folks in these apartments. And he ended up with this like tub that was probably filled with poop, that he was like scraping dried poop off the side of it. And I remember just like that picture of Colin in there with like his gloves on and his mask on and like a scraper and just going to town. And I remember thinking like, this is what the gospel does. It takes that high end jock kid, who doesn't have to be there, and it puts him in the tub where all the poop's at, and he's cleaning it out because he loves Jesus. And this is the real story. So I wanted to set that up to let you know who Colin was. So Colin comes and helps out at Camp Respawn 1, which is the thing that kind of blended me and you together forever. It was the camp that we ran together for a lot of years. This was the first year there wasn't a Camp Respawn, but it was an awesome thing. And it was just, if you guys haven't heard about it, you can go back and listen to previous episodes. But Camp Respawn was just this really, really, really cool thing. And basically we gave the kids Sonny works with, these kids who got, addiction stuff and mental illness stuff kind of going on. We gave them a summer camp. And instead of bringing in like church speakers, we brought in people who had kind of overcome or were currently overcoming addictions in their own life. And those were the speakers every night. And their small groups were basically their clinical groups. It was the things that they were doing out there. And we ended up getting, I think the state to pay for all their camps. So it was a really cool idea. And the way we pulled it off the first year was because nobody in Sonny's field really knew how to do this. And, when you're trying to pitch an idea to people who've never seen it before, and it's kind of outside of the box of what you normally do, it's really hard to get going. And so what we did is we took a bunch of people from the church and a bunch of our students and a bunch of our staff members, and we basically staffed that whole camp with church people. And they were running that camp besides the people who were actually doing the counseling and the speakers who were coming in. The people who were the backbone of that first camp were volunteers from our church. And Colin Barrow was one of those volunteers. And he came out and he served well. And it was really, really awesome to have him out there. And again, it's what the gospel does. It takes this guy who doesn't have to be on the fringes, doesn't have to be out there working that stuff, and he has to work it. So anyway, this is so long, and I hate that I'm telling this story, and it sounds rambly, but I tell you all that to tell you this story. I'm on the boat with Colin, and Colin, he starts asking me a question. He goes, dude, you're out here all day. What do you do when you have to poop? And I'm always like trying to mess with students. I don't know what that is about me, but I think it's what makes me good at what I do. But I'm always trying to mess with students. Sonny's the same way.
And you're messy.
Yes. Sonny also likes to mess with students. But Sonny wasn't there at this point. Or maybe he was. I don't know. But I tell him, dude, no, what you do is you know how you pee in the water? What you do is you can also just poop in the lake too. He's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, dude, what you do is you hold your breath. You swim down about 6, 7, maybe 10 feet down there. You pull your pants down. You pull your trunks off, and you just poop. And then you swim back up when you're done. Shake it off in the lake. And I said it to him with a straight face. I was planning to come back to that and tell him I was joking, or that that something was going to happen, or that stuff. And then we're out there just kind of swimming around, and I can't see Colin for a little while. Dude pops back up, gets back on the boat, looks me right now and goes, I did it. I pooped in the lake. He pooped in the lake, Sonny. Like, he swam underwater. He held his breath. He squeezed one out, and then he swam back to the surface. And that's you know what? That's actually a pretty hard thing to do, right? And
that takes some talent to do that, if you ask me.
I mean, as a mid-30s dude, there's no way. That's an impossible task for me.
No.
I don't have the
You have to
breath.
sit there afterwards and think about it for a while.
And my phone's not down there. I mean, how are you gonna take a poop without your phone? But yes. I want to talk about Colin there, and that is not what the gospel does, but it is fun to mess with kids.
Okay, but do you remember on the way home from that trip in Washington as well?
On the way home from the mission trip?
Yeah, we went to the fast food place, and that girl at the counter was totally into him as well, and she was totally like eyeing him and stuff like that. I think at one point she even said he was cute. Yeah, I'm like, Colin, go get her Snapchat or something. Like, go get her Snapchat. And he went up there and he was like, "Hey, do you got a Snapchat?" And she's like, "No." And he got all butthurt and turned around and was all sad. And he starts walking back, and she's literally going, I have a phone number. And he was so locked in to get her Snapchat, he was so depressed he didn't get it, that he just ignored her and walked back to our table. And she's like, I have a number.
Oh, man. Dude, that was not a good trip for him. He had to scrape the poo. He didn't get Kaya's digits, and he didn't get the girl at McDonald's digits. He was striking out big time.
The Lord humbles those.
Yes. Yeah. You know, he needed to be knocked down a little bit. Shout out to Colin.
We are still listening to the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast.
Pick or flick, hot topics of the day. Sonny has two. I have two. All right, the first one is this: Christians smoking weed. Christians smoking weed.
I don't know. Pick.
Pick.
I need more context.
Christians
drinking beer. Christians smoking cigarettes. Christians doing meth. Christians having mental health issues. I mean, where do you want to draw the line?
No. What I'm asking is, are you okay with the recreational use of marijuana for Christians?
What does the Bible say
about that?
Genesis 1:28.
I don't know what you're quoting here.
Oh, that's the famous pothead verse. I think it's 1:28.
Is that everything from rule over all?
It might be 1:29.
Eat and drink and.
No, it's every seed-bearing plant on the face of the earth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's a famous pot verse. I don't know. I know weed's trendy right now. I look at it the same as alcohol, whether that's the moderation stance or not. I know depending on where you go, who you talk to, you're either straight edge where you don't do anything. You're either moderation. You're either a heathen if you do this. You're a heathen if you do that. The more and more I live life and live longer, I think people are messy. And I think that when we have these ideals we set forth about you're not a Christian unless you do X, Y, and Z, and you're not a true Christian unless you do this, this, and this, we set our own selves up for failure. And so I don't know. I'll pick it because I don't know the person's heart who's smoking the weed that claims to be a Christian.
I'm probably on a flick on this one, but that's kind of for who I am. I don't drink alcohol. I try to stay away from anything that changes my, motivations or mind too much. And it really just comes from a long history of having family members who are, in the middle of their addictions and watching them struggle, for so long. And I think that anything that's going to take you from, who you are mentally is probably something that you don't want to be messing with. And the Bible does say, "Let nothing be the master of me." I think that marijuana, alcohol, and the everything else that's hard on that stuff, it has a way of mastering over humans. Now, not everybody is in that boat. Not everybody is mastered by these things. Some people can do it recreationally.
What do you mean by mastered? Like controlled?
Controlled, yeah. Where it's driving you and you're not driving it. That's what
Have you ever watched sports and gotten so mad you lashed out at somebody?
Yes.
Okay. What's the difference?
I would say there is no difference. I think as saying if sports do that to you, you should probably take a break
Can you be a sports fan and be a Christian?
What I'm saying is I'm flicking it personally.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you know this about me. There's been whole seasons where I've shut off my sports stuff and my sports apps and doing that stuff because I've had these moments where my whole day was ruined because my team didn't do what I thought they were going to do. And I just sat there and think, this shouldn't have that much control over me. This shouldn't decide whether or not I have a good or a bad day. This shouldn't master me. Sports shouldn't do this. It's supposed to be entertainment. And it's a conversation I actually have with my son about Minecraft. Actually, is that and it's the same conversation. It's the exact same conversation. Is that, he gets frustrated, he starts crying, he's upset about something that happened in the game, or he has to shut the game off. And I say, this is not fulfilling its purpose, man. Because what Minecraft is supposed to do is be something that's fun for you. And if you're leaving crying every time, or you're getting so frustrated and so mad, then it's not entertainment anymore. It's not fulfilling what it's supposed to do. And so for me, I put it in that same spot of let nothing be the master of me. And so I think there's some things that you can do that are kind of on the edge. For me, I don't go down that route very much at all.
So you think it's a more of a personal case by case scenario, or do you think it's a
yeah? So I try not to judge people who make decisions like that. And I kind of have a let God be the convictor of the heart. The scriptures are the scriptures, man. When you read them, God will convict your heart, man. And not everyone reads them the same way. And I've moved off of positions that I thought were, super scriptural before I found out that it was just me pushing things. But I believe in the Holy Spirit's power to convict a heart. And if you're in sin, I don't think I should be having to be the one pointing it out to you. I think that the Holy Spirit will convict your spirit and your heart, and you're not going to want to change to be closer to me. You're going to want to change to be closer to Jesus. And so,
sure.
So for me, on a personal preference, I flick it, but I think that in this way, someone can pick it or flick it. I do remember back in my Oregon days, there's a really trendy church that all the college kids were going to, and they had a rock and small group ministry. But my friend stopped going to his small group, Sonny, because he said that all they do is drink wine and get really, really drunk. And even though they're talking about the Bible, it gets weird.
Yeah.
and I'm sitting here thinking like, I get Christian freedom and that we're all kind of, on our own journey. But if your Bible study becomes a slosh fest, there's something wrong here. This isn't
something different there.
This isn't it. And I think that we're 2 clicks away from, and we're already there. I mean, this is a Rastafarian movement, but we're 2 clicks away from mainlining, small groups having the Word of God in their hand and a bong that they're all token on. And I don't think you need it. I don't think that's the right setting for it. And so, I'm totally against, and this is just me, but I'm totally against people who, would say that alcohol or weed or any of that stuff helps them in their relationship. God gets them more into the Spirit. The Bible kind of sets those things up as different things, right? Do not get drunk, which leads...
Do not be a drunkard, yeah.
Yeah, do not be a drunkard. Do not get drunk.
But it doesn't say don't be a stoner, though, TJ. It just says drunkard.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That's true. Like all the disciples were just sitting there, watching Jesus' miracle. It's like, Jesus' miracle, bro. It's great. But it's even better on weed, bro.
Maybe stone them didn't mean throw rocks at them, TJ.
It changes a lot
Blow
of things.
smoke
That's
in
true.
his face. Okay, ready? I got another one. I got one.
Okay.
Loving Jesus doesn't always cure depression.
So this is that's a direct quote taken from Jared Wilson.
Correct.
And oh man, that's a rough week for Christians. And this is a story that's happened before with a different mainline pastor.
Why is it such a rough week?
I just think that anytime someone has fought something so hard, helped people out, fighting that thing, and then to lose the battle against it, that's a pretty tough thing to see happen and to see what's going on. It's hard to understand how to view this, Sonny. And Britt and I had talked about this, so maybe you can.
So here's the full quote. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure suicidal thoughts. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure depression. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure PTSD. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure anxiety. But that doesn't mean Jesus doesn't offer us up companionship and comfort. He always does that. And this was tweeted out by Jared, I think, the night before, or that night he actually ended up taking his own life.
Wow.
And this was a guy who was an advocate for mental health in the church and ran a ministry helping those who struggle with mental health.
He founded it. He was at Greg Laurie's church. I mean, this isn't just some guy down the street. This is a big name.
No,
this is a guy who's authored some books on this stuff. Who's considered one of the experts on the forefronts of these things. This isn't a small deal. I have some problems with that quote. But I don't really want to get into those because I don't know if it's the right time to do that. I do believe in a God who's not just passive in our struggles, and compassion and forgiveness, and those tend to be more passive ways in which we view God's involvement in the world, and maybe that's just how we kind of rectify certain things. But I do know that in my own life, God's word, God's presence, my relationship with God has been the thing that's kind of lifted me out of some pretty messed up situations. And I'm not a person who's dealt with depression on the level of like a suicidal thoughts. So I guess I'm not that person. Most of my depression has come situationally. Something happened that was really hard, and I'm dealing with that. So it's more of a kind of a seasonal depression in that way. So I don't understand that, but I have struggled with anxiety, which is kind of a different version of depression, I guess. And my heart kind of racing, and not being able to shut my brain off and stuff. So I do understand that there are illnesses that kind of creep in, and it's hard though. If I frame this up like this, like a mega church pastor who preached against adultery, all of a sudden left his faith and moved in with his girlfriend, and it wouldn't be a very heroic tale of that, right? Like, it's a person who's supposed to advocate against these things. It's supposed to be a champion of these causes, succumbing to it. And so for me, there's a question here of, is this person a person that I definitely think we should learn something from them, but is it a hero's? Is it a hero's funeral? Or is this just a really sad moment? What do you think, Sonny?
Yeah.
I'm not picking or flicking. I don't know what to do with this. That's what I guess I'm saying right with this.
You're digging.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm digging deep.
Digging. I think it's complicated. I think it's very complicated. I think the longer I've kind of have most of my ministry outside the church, the more I view the James 2 faith without works comment a lot. what is a prophet, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have the works, can faith save him? You have to have the works to go with the faith. And people can pray all day long, Jesus heal me of this, Jesus heal me of that, Jesus heal me of this, Jesus heal me of that. But if you're not doing the work to really fix the brain chemistry, so to say, because like when trauma happens to a brain, like parts of your brain freeze and parts of your brain stop communicating to one another, and I think the part of this that is weird is that we all believe in an omni-powerful God, but then we don't know why he doesn't fix things when we ask, or fix these things and fixes these things over here. And so that's where it becomes weird. But I think it's a matter of, praying, keeping that out in front. Prayer brings us closer to God's heart, and then doing the work. We have to reap what we sow in this life, because if we believe in the afterlife, there is no reaping there. So I think the works is a big part of it, and serious illnesses of mental illness, of PTSD and hardcore depression, resulting in suicidal thoughts and suicidal attempts. That's some pretty deep rooted stuff in the brain chemistry, and yeah, it's complicated. And I think he 100% could be a believer in God. But then it questions, well, is he in heaven because he's a murderer and he killed himself? But then you have to balance that with, a pedophile and a murderer accepts Jesus 100% and gets put in heaven, and then, babies die. Where do they go? Well, then we have the age of accountability at 12 with what they used to say and stuff. So I just don't think we deal with this stuff very well. We want to have answers for everything. And I think it is in, in Numbers or Deuteronomy, where God says, I will have mercy on whom I'll have mercy, and compassion on whom I'll have compassion. And I like that statement, because it just trust the Lord with everything, and it's not for us to decide. It's for the Lord. And if anything, I think what I take away from this is I think it's good to have pastors speaking about this, because it's real and it's raw and it's more prevalent than anybody wants to admit inside the church. And if we're not talking about it, then we're not doing anything about it. Kind of like how porn went rampant forever, and every teenage boy you ever worked with inside the church typically had a problem with it or already experienced it, but nobody wanted to talk about it. And so just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how many pastors out there struggle with depression, or the narcissistic. We've talked personally, I think, about how pastors can be more prone to narcissistic behavior because of the power of the pulpit and the power of being on stage and the power of having control over people and the Book of Eli concept and stuff like that. And so I think as the whole world figures out mental health and what to do with it, I think a lot of the answers lie in Christianity as far as loving people and forgiveness and healing, because that's all rooted throughout CBT and therapy and stuff, is forgiveness and moving on. But at the same time, helping people learn how to do DBT skills and rewiring thinking structure in your brain and stuff like that, and instead of just praying to Jesus rewire my brain, kind of like that the guy at sea who prays to Jesus to save him 3 times, and at one point a boat came to save him. I'm waiting for Jesus, and then Coast Guard, I'm waiting for Jesus, and then the helicopter, I'm waiting for Jesus, and then he dies, and then he gets to heaven, and he says, why didn't you save me? I did. I saved you 3 times, but you never accepted the help. So it's kind of like that, I think, too, in the mental health. It's like, Jesus, can you help us? And then maybe he brings people in our lives to help us. Maybe that's a therapist, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a counselor, maybe it's a pastor and stuff like that. I don't know. But yeah, man, I also think at the same time I say all that, it can be very dangerous to have somebody who simply has experienced the same things as you've experienced being the leader of that, because then that becomes the less blind leading the blind, and that can become dangerous as well if that person is unqualified, both as a leader and even having been healed themselves.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talked about. That's one of the things we talked about in regards to Respawn Camp, is that I remember one night you came to me and you said, I'm not going to have any more tweakers share at campfire.
Well, they just went rambling on and on and on.
Well, yeah, but there was something to be said for, you want the people who are standing up there and being the leaders and being something, but being something that's not just overcomers, but people who are doers,
and
I think that goes to the 1 Corinthians 4:20 for all of our potheads out there. 1 Corinthians 4:20, which is one of my favorite verses. It's kind of like James, but it says this. It says, the kingdom of heaven is not just a lot of talk, but it's living by God's power. And that's the real question here on all of these things, is that are we as a church just a bunch of talkers, or are we going out and moving mountains because we have a powerful God and a lot of faith? And that's kind of why I shared the story about Colin, like the dude isn't just talking about his love for Jesus and then, doing whatever he wants and playing on the basketball team. He's scraping poo out of some guy's tub who can't do it. He's going out there and doing it. He's actually doing it. And so I don't know, man. I don't know. I definitely, when it comes to suicide, it's a scary thing. I've had some pretty terrible things. I'll talk about those later on the shows, but I've buried a kid because of suicide. I've buried a family member because of suicide. And it always, every time it hits, every time it comes up, every time something happens in pop culture, I am left with the same feeling of, I don't know, God. I don't know. I don't know what this is.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Because doesn't that make you rely on him more?
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's where I'm at. It's like the longer I do this, the more I realize the answer is God. Mm-hmm. But then in the midst of the work, I don't know. It's just loving it. Like today, the first thing I asked the kid, I'm like, why the heck, I was kind of mad. I was like, why the hell did you steal these glasses, bro? You just jeopardized the whole trip. I was having a bad day. What the F you mean you're having a bad day? Like, you steal glasses to make it a better day, But he's been through some really intense trauma, and he's been told by his dad he's worthless and he's a piece of crap and he might as well not even be here. And so how does the brain process that? Like, I don't know. I can't jump in his brain and figure it out. But my only worry with all this is the Werther effect, and the 13 reasons why. Here we have a pastor committed suicide, so now suicide is going to be talked about, and if he is a hero of it, which I don't really think he's a hero of it, it's going to be okay to commit suicide, and all of a sudden we're going to see a rash of suicides, So that's my one big fear about all this and stuff like that.
Well, and I think a couple things on that. First of all, this isn't the first pastor. This happened earlier in the year. I don't even think it's been a year since the last pastor who was a pastor at a prominent church. Similar situation. Beautiful wife. He's the lead pastor of this church, and he's got a couple kids at home, and he had talked openly about, some of his struggles, and the church had, really actually looked like they were engaging him and trying to help him through his struggles, and just ended up happening. And so it isn't, I'm scared about that too. And I think that's one of the reasons I am scared about the way we talk about it. And I'm scared about the way we celebrate Jared Wilson. I want to celebrate his work and the things he's done, because he saved some lives setting up this thing. I mean, he didn't save his own life, but he did save some lives. And so that stuff is worth celebrating. The way he died is not. I don't know how to. I feel like saying that is going to tick some people off, and I think that there's a sense of martyrdom here that also is happening. And again, I love the work. I love the courageous. I love what he tweets. I love what he's doing. I'm going to read his book now, but man, it feels like to champion this cause, you have to be alive, And I wonder how many people out there who he's helped lost a little bit of hope when his light went out.
Yeah. And then I think to keep all of this in perspective, look at like Robin Williams, he committed suicide. Yeah. Anthony Bourdain, the guy who traveled the world eating great food.
Yeah.
Like, that would be the greatest job ever, So sometimes the people who are really strong need to be asked, how you really doing, and I think that's where to me, Christianity is the answer. It's we need to live together, love together, just be in communing with one another at all times and stuff, and really check in and say, how's it really going? How you really doing? Have those hour-long conversations that you don't want to have, but you need to have.
Yeah, absolutely,
important.
Absolutely. Yep, I think again we're not gonna have all the answers for this. I had another pick or flick, but I think it's a good place to actually end on in a good discussion there. This is the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast, and we are part of the Youth Ministry Podcast Network. Go check out some of those other shows. Controlled Chaos, Why We Stayed, MultiMulti, Youth Ministry United. We just added a couple new podcasts to the network, so check those guys out. Give them reviews and all the stuff we ask you guys for. Randos, we are back, and so make sure that you're tuning in every single Monday for a new Fringe Youth Worker Podcast episode. Sonny, anything else you want to say?
Nah, bro, I'm good.
This is the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast. Don't believe anything